Students, teachers, poetry fans from around the state, welcome to our Maine Poetry Out Loud State Finals competition. I'm Meg Fournier, the coordinator of the Poetry Out Loud program and the director of Media and Performing Arts with the Maine Arts Commission. Things look a little different this year, don't they? Normally, we would all be gathering together in a large performing arts center, cheering our students on a large stage. But while we can't be together this year, I'm so excited to be joining you all from the stage here at Sun Tiki Studios in Portland. Great poetry has always been a part of the cultural fabric of Maine, and we are so honored to be partnering with the Poetry Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts to bring you all this 16th year of Poetry Out Loud in Maine. Today we are honoring 10 finalists who have excelled in their in-school and regional competitions, despite this being a very unique year, where in-person competitions have been replaced with virtual competitions. We are so incredibly proud of your hard work and your commitment to bringing the written word alive from screen to screen. A special shout out to the teachers that have made Poetry Out Loud possible in their schools this year. You have all been facing amazing challenges, and we're so grateful that you have continued to teach the art of poetry to your students. You are all heroes, each and every one of you. And of course, thank you also to the parents, guardians, friends, all of the support networks that have supported our students along the way through this process. We couldn't do it without you as well. Now it is my pleasure to introduce you all to our host for today's virtual celebration of Poetry Out Loud, former Maine state champion and Poetry Out Loud alum, Alan Manga. Alan moved to the United States from Zambia in 2017 as a high school student. When he came to America, he became involved in his high school, during high school's Poetry Out Loud program, and discovered his love of poetry and recitation. He continues to advocate for immigrant rights, both at his alma mater and around the state. Alan, welcome, and I pass the virtual mic on to you.
Let's mark. All right, scene 2, take 1, mark.
Thank you, Meg. This is truly an exciting event, and I am honored to be the one to be introducing our student competitors today. Today, you will see each of our student competitors reciting 3 poems, 1 in each round. Students filmed themselves reciting each of their poems and submitted them for the competition. Judging for Poetry Out Loud is based on accuracy, physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, evidence of understanding, and overall performance. The order of recitation was randomly selected in advance. Without wasting any time, let's get to round 1. First up is Caitlin Nestor, grade 10, Gardner Area High School. Caitlin loves playing the violin, traveling, and hiking. She aspires to become a nurse in order to help others. Her favorite high school subjects include English and history.
My therapist wants to know about my relationship to work by Tiana Clark. I hustle upstream. I grasp, I grind, I control, and panic. Poke balloons in my chest, always popping there, always my thoughts thump, thump. I snooze, wake, and go boom. All day like this, I short my breath. I scroll and scroll. I see what you wrote. I like, I heart. My thumb, so tired. My head bent down, but not in prayer, heavy from the looking. I see your face, your phone-lit faces. I tap your food 2 times for more hearts. I retweet. I email, yes and yes and yes. Then I cry and need to say no, no, no. Why does it take so long to reply? I FOMO and shout. I read, I never enough. New book, new post, new ping, a new tab, then another. Papers on the floor, scattered and stacked. So many journals, unbroken white spines, waiting. Did you hear that new? I start to text back. Ellipsis. Then I forget. I balk. I lazy the bed. I wallow when I write. I truth when I lie. I throw a book when a poem undoes me. I underline Clifton. Today we are possible. I start from image. I begin with Phyllis Wheatley. I begin with Phyllis Wheatley. I begin with Phyllis Wheatley reaching for coal. I start with a napkin, receipt, or my hand. I muscle memory. I stutter the page. I fail. Hit delete. Scratch out one more line. I sonnet, then break form. I make tea. Use 2 bags. Roy a boss again. I bathe now. Epsom salt. No books or phone. Just water and the sound of water filling. Glory be my buoyant body, bowl of me. Yes, lavender, more bubbles and bath bomb. Of course, some candles too. All alone with Coltrane. My favorite, Naima, for his wife, now for me inside my own womb. Again, I child back. I float. I sing. I simple and humble. Eyes close. I lower my voice. Was it a psalm? Don't know. But I stopped.
Next up, we have Magnolia Vendiver, grade 12, George Stevens Academy. Magnolia is involved in a local theater. She loves making her own clothes and shoes and also plays the harp. Her favorite subjects in high school include English, history, biology, and art. She would like to take up a teaching career and continue learning as much as she can.
The Universe as Primal Scream by Tracy K. Smith. 5 p.m. on the nose. They open their mouths and it rolls out. High, shrill, and metallic. First the boy, then his sister. Occasionally they both let loose at once, and I think of putting on my shoes to go up and see whether it is merely an experiment their parents have been conducting upon the good crystal, which must surely lie shattered to dust on the floor. Maybe the mother is still proud of the 4 pink lungs she nursed to such might. Perhaps, if they hit the magic decibel, the whole building will lift off and will ride to glory like Elijah. If this is it, if this is what their cries are cocked toward, let the sky pass from blue to red to molten gold to black. Let the heaven we inherit approach. Whether it is our dead in Old Testament robes, or a door opening onto the roiling infinity of space. Whether it will bend down to greet us like a father, or swallow us like a furnace. I'm ready. To meet what refuses to let us keep anything for long. What teases us with blessings, bends us with grief. Wizard, thief, the great wind rushing to knock our mirrors to the floor, to sweep our short lives clean. How mean our racket seems beside it. My stereo on shuffle, the neighbor chopping onions through a wall. All of it just a hiccup against what may never come for us. And the kids upstairs, still at it, screaming like the dawn of man, as if something they have no name for has begun to insist upon being born.
Our next performer is Ada Vansel. Grade 11, John Bupps Memorial High School. Ada is involved in theater and vocal music. She is passionate about writing and hopes to take a career of it one day. Her favorite high school subjects include English and music.
Time Does Not Bring Relief. You All Have Lied by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Time does not bring relief. You all have lied. Who told me time would ease me of my pain? I miss him in the weeping of the rain. I want him at the shrinking of the tide. The old snows melt from every mountainside, and last year's leaves are smoke in every lane. But last year's bitter loving must remain heaped on my heart, and my old thoughts abide. There are 100 places where I fear to go, so with his memory they brim, and entering with relief some quiet place where never fell his foot or shone his face, I say, there is no memory of him here. And so stand stricken, so remembering him.
And now, Helen Strout, grade 12, Cape Elizabeth High School. Helen aspires to travel and learn about other cultures around the world. She plans on going to art school to explore her passion for creation and connection. She also combines poetry and music into songwriting.
Angels by B.H. Fairchild. Elliot Ray Niederland. Home from college one winter, hauling a load of Herefords from Hogtown to Guyman, with a pint of Ezra Brooks and a copy of Rilke's Dwenezer Elegine on the seat beside him, saw the ass end of his semi gliding around in the side mirror as he hit ice, and knew he would never live to see graduation or the castle at Duino. In the hospital, head wrapped like a gift, the nurses had stuck a bow on top, he said 4 flaming angels crouched on the hood, wings spread so wide he couldn't see. And then the world collapsed. We smiled and passed a flask around. Little Bill and I sang Your Cheatin' Heart and laughed, and then a sudden quiet put a hard edge on the morning, and we left. Zia, ich liebe! Look, I'm alive, he said, leaping down the hospital steps. The nurses waved, white dresses puffed out like pigeons in the morning breeze. We roared off in my Dodge. Behold, I come like a thief, he shouted to the town and gave his life to poetry. He lives now in the south of France. His poems arrive by mail, and we read them and do not understand.
Next up, we have Hazel Dow, grade 11, Waterville Senior High School. Hazel is an aspiring musician who loves words and music. She writes and produces her own music and also plays the violin and the piano. Her favorite high school subjects include English, history, and government.
Blade Unplugged by Tim Seebles. It's true. I almost never smile. But that doesn't mean I'm not in love. My heart is that black violin played slowly. You know that moment late in the solo when the voice is so pure. You feel the blood in it. The wound between rage and complete surrender. That's where I'm smiling. You just can't see it. The sound bleeding perfectly inside me. The first time I killed a vampire, I was sad. I mean, we were almost family. But that's so many lives ago. I believe in the cry that cuts into the melody, the strings calling back the forgotten world. When I think of the madness that has made me and the midnight I walk inside all day long, when I think of that one note that breaks what's left of what's human in me, man, I love everything.
Performing now, Emma Collins, grade 12, North Yarmouth Academy. Emma enjoys playing the violin and singing. She plans on attending Bates College next year, where she will be studying English, science, and music.
She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron, George Gordon. She walks in beauty like the night, of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. Thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek, and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent.
And now, Emily Peruk, grade 12, Gorham High School. Emily aspires to be an actor and work in the performing arts. Her favorite high school subjects include video production, creative writing, and English. Emily loves having a good conversation and has a knack for telling dad jokes.
Once the World Was Perfect by Joy Harjo. Once the world was perfect, and we were happy in that world. Then we took it for granted. Discontent began a small rumble in the earthly mind. Then doubt pushed through with its spiked head, and once doubt ruptured the web, all manner of demon thoughts jumped through. We destroyed the world we had been given for inspiration, for life. Each stone of jealousy, each stone of fear, greed, envy, and hatred put out the light. No one was without a stone in his or her hand. There we were, right back where we had started. We were bumping into each other in the dark, and now we had no place to live since we didn't know how to live with each other. Then one of the stumbling ones took pity on another and shared a blanket. A spark of kindness made a light. The light made an opening in the darkness. Everyone worked together to make a ladder. A Wind Clan person climbed out first into the next world. And then the other clans, the children of those clans, their children and their children, all the way through time to now. Into this morning light, to you.
Next up, we have Rose Tuttle, grade 9, Mount Ararat High School. Rose's interests include visual arts and performing. She loves to sing and dance, and at school, she loves to be involved as much as possible and enjoys clubs like student council and yearbook. Her favorite high school subjects include science, English, and chorus.
The Barnacle by A.E. Stallings. The barnacle is rather odd. It's not related to the clam or limpet. It's an arthropod, the one that doesn't give a damn. Cousin to the crab and shrimp. When larval, it can twitch and swim and make decisions. Tiny imp that flits according to its whim. Once grown, with nothing more to prove, it hunkers down and will remain stuck fast. And once it does not move, has no more purpose for a brain. Its one boast is it will not budge. Cemented where it chanced to sink, sclerotic, stubborn as a grudge, settled, it does not need to think.
And now, Zeke Cedars, grade 12, Lisbon High School. Zeke's favorite subjects include art and English. They aspire someday to start a nonprofit to keep the arts in the school system.
Walking home, I feel a presence following and realize he is always there. That native man with coal-black hair who is my grandfather. In my first memories, he is present, mostly wordless, resident in the house where I was born. My mother shows him the cleft in my chin identical to his. I am swaddled and blinking in the kitchen light. So we are introduced. We never part. Sometimes I forget he lodges in my house still, the bone house where my heart beats. I carry his mother's framework, a sturdy structure. I learn his birthright. I hear his mother's teachings through what my mother said of her. She kept a pot of stew on the stove all day for anyone to eat. She never went to church, but said you could be a good person anyway. She fed hobos in the 30s, her back porch a regular stopover. Every person has rights, no matter what color. Be respectful. This son of hers, my grandfather, still walks the streets with me. Some twist of blood and heat still spark across the time bridge. Here, listen. Air draws through these lungs made from his. His blood still pulses through this hand.
And last but not the least, Sophia Stockwell, grade 10, North Haven Community School. Sophia's favorite subjects include drama, art, math, and Spanish. She aspires to become a teacher or an actor one day.
The Tiger by William Blake.
Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? When thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp?
when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears? Did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
And that concludes round 1 of our competition. Before we move on to round 2, we have a special musical guest.
Hello again, friends. Now I'm joining you from the Maine Arts Commission offices in Augusta. So, in our usual in-person competitions, we welcome student musicians from around the state to the stage to share in celebrating the many performing arts disciplines that inspire and engage our students. This year, for our virtual competition, we're excited to share with you 2 performances from Maine Academy of Modern Music's fall event, Chords for Kids. The Maine Academy of Modern Music offers programming around the state. They use the power of music to foster collaboration and community amongst students. This first performance comes from Symbol for a Theory, performing a song by Will Wood and the Tapeworms.
You're trying to replace yourself, you're trying to replace yourself. You're trying to replace yourself, you're trying to replace yourself. You're trying to replace yourself, you're trying to replace yourself. You're trying to replace yourself, you're all I'm back from reckoning, making it acting, taking out the pills and letting on the ground. You said never been wearing your face. All the other false identities, remedies of enemies and mitigate your memory, shut it down, what they found. Put it straight away from grace. You lied to your
Thank you, Symbol 4 Theory. Now let's continue with the next round of recitations.
Songs for the People by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Let me make the songs for the people, songs for the old and young, songs to stir like a battle cry wherever they are sung. Not for the clashing of sabers, for carnage, nor for strife, but songs to thrill the hearts of men with more abundant life. Let me make the songs for the weary amid life's fever and fret, till hearts shall relax their tension and careworn brows forget. Let me sing for little children before their footsteps stray, sweet anthems of love and duty to flow o'er life's highway. I would sing for the poor and aged when shadows dim their sight of the bright and restful mansions where there shall be no night. Our world, so worn and weary, needs music, pure and strong, to hush the jangle and discords of sorrow, pain, and wrong. Music to soothe all its sorrow till war and crime shall cease, and the hearts of men grown tender girdle the world with peace.
War Ballad by Stanley Moss, after the Russian. The piano has crawled into the quarry. Hauled in last night for firewood, sprawled with frozen barrels, crates, and sticks. The piano is waiting for the axe. Legless, a black box still polished, it lies on its belly like a lizard, droning, heaving, hardly fashioned for the quarry's primordial art. Blood red, his frozen fingers cleft, 2 on the right hand, 5 on the left. He goes down on his knees to reach the keyboard, to strike the lizard's chord. 7 fingers pick out rhymes and rhythm. The frozen skin, steaming, peels off them as from a boiled potato. Their schemes, their beauty, ivory and anthracite, flicker and flash like the great northern lights. Everything played before is a great lie. The reflections of flaming chandeliers, deceit. The white columns, the grand tiers in warm concert halls, wild lies. But the steel of the piano howls in me. I lie in the quarry and I am deft as the lizard. I accept the gift. I'll be a song for Russia. I'll be an etude. Warmth and bread for everybody.
Pity the Beautiful by Donna Gioia. Pity the beautiful, the dolls and the dishes, the babes with big daddies granting their wishes. Pity the pretty boys, the hunks and Apollos, the golden lads whom success always follows. The hotties, the knockouts, the 10s out of 10, the drop-dead gorgeous, the great leading men. Pity the faded, the bloated, the blousy, the paunchy Adonis, whose luck's gone lousy. Pity the gods no longer divine. Pity the night, the stars lose their shine.
The Conqueror Worm by Edgar Allan Poe. Lo, 'tis a gala night within the lonesome latter years. An angel throng, bewinged, bedight in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theater to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mimes, in the form of God on high, mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly. Mere puppets, they who come and go at bidding of vast, formless things that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings invisible woe. That motley drama, oh be sure, it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased forevermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth into the self-same spot, and much of madness, and more of sin, and horror, the soul of the plot. But see, amid the mimic rout, a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes, with mortal pangs the mimes become its food, and seraphs sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights, out all! And over each quivering form, the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, while the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is the tragedy, man, and its hero, the conqueror worm.
Candles by Carl Dennis. If on your grandmother's birthday you burn a candle to honor her memory, you might think of burning an extra to honor the memory of someone who never met her. A man who may have come to the town she lived in looking for work and never found it. Picture him taking a stroll one morning after a month of grief with the want ads to refresh himself in the park before moving on. Suppose he notices on the gravel path the shards of a green glass bottle that your grandmother, then still a girl, will be destined to step on when she wanders barefoot away from her school picnic if he doesn't stoop down and scoop up the mess with the want ad section and carry it to a trash can. For you to burn a candle for him, you needn't suppose the cut would be a deep one. Just deep enough to keep her at home the night of the hayride when she meets Helen, who is soon to become her dearest friend, whose brother, George, 30 years later, helps your grandfather with a loan so his shoe store doesn't go under in the Great Depression. And his son, your father, is able to stay in school, where his love of learning is fanned into flames, a love he labors later to kindle in you. How grateful you are for your father's efforts is shown by the candles you've burned for him. But today, for a change, why not a candle for the man whose name is unknown to you? Take a moment to wonder whether he died at home with friends and family, or alone on the road, on the lookout for no one to sit at his bedside and hold his hand. The very hand it's time for you to imagine holding.
In the basement of the Goodwill store by Ted Kooser. In musty light, in the thin brown air of damp carpet, dull heads, and rust, beneath long rows of sharp footfalls like nails in a lid, an old man stands trying on glasses, lifting each pair from the box like a glittering fish and holding it to the light of a dirty bulb. Near him, a heap of enameled pans as white as skulls looms in the catacomb shadows, and old toilets with dry red throats cough up bouquets of curtain rods. You've seen him somewhere before. He's wearing the green leisure suit you threw out with the garbage, and the Christmas tie you hated, and the ventilated wingtip shoes you found in your father's closet and wore as a joke, and the glasses which finally fit him, through which he looks to see you looking back. Two mirrors which flash and glance are those through which one day you too will look down over the years when you have grown old and thin and no longer particular, and the things you once thought you were rid of forever have taken you back in their arms.
Fairy Tale Logic by A.E. Stallings. Fairy tales are full of impossible tasks. Gather the chin hairs of a man-eating goat, or cross a sulfuric lake in a leaky boat. Select the prince from a row of identical masks, tiptoe up to a dragon where it basks, and snatch its bone. Count dust specks, mote by mote, or learn the phone directory by rote. Always it's impossible what someone asks. You have to fight magic with magic. You have to believe that you have something impossible up your sleeve. The language of snakes. Perhaps an invisible cloak, an army of ants at your beck, or a lethal joke. The will to do whatever must be done. Marry a monster. Hand over your firstborn son.
Sonnet 29, When in Disgrace with Fortune in Men's Eyes, by William Shakespeare. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet, in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love, remembered, such wealth brings, that then I scorn
to change my state with kings.
Emily Dickinson at the Poetry Slam by Dan Vera. I will tell you why she rarely ventured from her house. It happened like this. One day, she took the train to Boston, made her way to the darkened room, put her name down in cursive script, and waited her turn. When they read her name aloud, she made her way to the stage, straightened the papers in her hands, pages and envelopes, the backs of grocery bills. She closed her eyes for a minute, took a breath, and began. From her mouth, perfect words exploded, intact formulas of light and darkness. She dared to rhyme with words like cochineal and describe the skies like diadem. Obscurely worded incantations filled the room with an alchemy that made the very molecules quake. The solitary words she handled in her upstairs room with keen precision came rumbling out to make the electric lights flicker. 40 members of the audience were treated for hypertension. 20-year-old dark-haired beauties found their heads had turned to Moses white. Her second poem erased the memory of every cell phone in the nightclub, and by the fourth line of the sixth verse, the grandmother in the upstairs apartment had been cured of her rheumatism. The papers reported the power outages. The area hospitals taxed their emergency generators, and sirens were heard to wail through the night. Quietly, she made her way to the exit, walked to the terminal, and rode back to Amherst. She never left her room again, and never read such syllables aloud.
Songs for the People by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Let me make the songs for the people, songs for the old and young, songs to stir like a battle cry, wherever they are sung. Not for the clashing of sabers, for carnage, nor for strife, but songs to thrill the hearts of men with more abundant life. Let me make the songs for the weary, amid life's fever and fret, till hearts shall relax their tension and careworn brows forget. Let me sing for little children before their footsteps stray, sweet anthems of love and duty to float o'er life's highway. I would sing for the poor and aged when shadows dim their sight of the bright and restful mansions where there shall be no night. Our world so worn and weary needs music pure and strong to hush the jangle and discords of sorrow, pain, and wrong. Music to soothe all its sorrow till war and crime shall cease, and the hearts of men grown tender girdle the world with peace.
That was wonderful. Before we proceed to the third and final round, I would love to share a poem by my favorite poets, Claude McKay. America. Although she feeds me bread of bitterness and sinks into my throat her tiger's tooth, still in my breath of life, I will confess I love this cultured hell that tastes my youth. Her bigness sweeps my being like a flood, yet as a rebel fronts a king and state. I stand within her walls with not a shred of terror, malice, not a word of jeer. Darkly I gaze into the days ahead and see her might and granite wonders there. Beneath the touch of time's unerring hand, like priceless treasures sinking in the sand.
A Covered Bridge in Littleton, New Hampshire by Stephanie Burt. I can remember when I wanted X more than anything ever. For X, fill in from your own childhood. Balloon, pencil lead, trading card, shoelaces, a bow, or not have to wear a bow. And now I am moved to action, when I am moved principally by a memory of what to want. The point is to be in your own eyes what you are, or to keep your own tools so that you can pretend. And so it was no surprise, to me at least, when Cooper, who is 2, collapsed in fortissimo fits when he could not have a $20, 3-foot-long stuffed frog in the image of Frog from Frog and Toad, since he is Toad. That morning, needing a nap, he had thrown from the 3rd-story balcony of Miller's Cafe and Bakery into the whistling rapids and shallows of the Ammonoosuc River with its arrowheads and caravans of stones. His Red Sox cap. His hair was shining like another planet's second sun, as he explained, looking up. I threw my hat in the river. I would like my hat back now.
When I Heard the Learned Astronomer by Walt Whitman. When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in columns before me, when I was shown the charts and diagrams to add, divide, and measure them, when I, sitting, heard the astronomer where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room, how soon, unaccountable, I became tired and sick. Till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself, in the mystical moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars.
Life in a Love by Robert Browning. Escape me? Never. Beloved, while I am I, and you are you, so long as the world contains us both, me, the loving, and you, the loath, while the one eludes, must the other pursue. My life is a fault, at last I fear. It seems too much like fate indeed. Though I do my best, I shall scarce succeed. But what if I fail of my purpose here? It is but to keep the nerves at strain, to dry one's eyes and laugh at a fall. And baffled, get up and begin again. So the chase takes up one's life. That's all. Well, look but once from your farthest bound at me, so deep in the dust and dark. No sooner the old hope goes to ground than a new one, straight to the self-same mark. I shape me, ever removed.
I know I remember, but how can I help you? By Hayden Carruth. The Northern Lights. I wouldn't have noticed them if the deer hadn't told me. A doe, her coat of pearls, her glowing hoofs proud and inquisitive, eager for my appraisal. And I went out into the night with electrical steps, but with my head held also proud to share the animal's fear and see what I had seen before. A sky flaring and spectral, greenish waves and ribbons, and the snow under strange light tossing in the pasture like a storming ocean caught by a flaring beacon. The deer stands away from me, not far, there among bare black apple trees, a presence I no longer see. We are proud to be afraid, proud to share the silent magnetic storm that destroys the stars and flickers around our heads like the saints' cold spiritual agonies of old. I remember, but without the sense, other light storms, cold memories, discursive and philosophical in my mind's burden, and the deer remembers nothing. We move our feet, crunching bitter snow, while the storm crashes like God wars down the east. We shake the sparks from our eyes. We quiver inside our shocked fur. We search for each other in the apple thicket. A glimpse, an acknowledgement. It is enough and never enough. We toss our heads and say goodnight, moving away on bitter, bitter snow.
On the Death of Anne Bronte by Charlotte Bronte. There is little joy in life for me, and little terror in the grave. I've lived the parting hour to see of one I would have died to save. Calmly to watch the failing breath, wishing each sigh might be the last, longing to see the shade of death o'er those beloved features cast. The cloud, the stillness that must part the darling of my life from me, and then to thank God from my heart, to thank him well and fervently. Although I knew that we had lost the hope and glory of our life, and now, benighted, tempest-tossed, must bear alone the weary strife.
Emily Dickinson at the Poetry Slam by Dan Vera. I will tell you why she rarely ventured from her house. It happened like this. One day, she took the train to Boston, made her way to the darkened room, put her name down in cursive script, and waited her turn. When they read her name aloud, she made her way to the stage, straightened the papers in her hands, pages and envelopes, the backs of grocery bills. She closed her eyes for a minute, took a breath, and began. From her mouth, perfect words exploded, intact formulas of light and darkness. She dared to rhyme with words like cochineal and describe the skies like diadem. Obscurely worded incantations filled the room with an alchemy that made the very molecules quake. The solitary words she handled in her upstairs room with keen precision came rumbling out to make the electric lights flicker. 40 members of the audience were treated for hypertension. 20-year-old dark-haired beauties found their heads had turned a Moses white. Her second poem erased the memory of every cell phone in the nightclub, and by the 4th line of the 6th verse, the grandmother in the upstairs apartment had been cured of her rheumatism. The papers reported the power outages. The area hospitals taxed their emergency generators, and sirens were heard to wail through the night. Quietly, she made her way to the exit, walked to the terminal, and rode back to Amherst. She never left her room again, and never read such syllables aloud.
Often rebuked, yet always back returning, by Emily Bronte. Often rebuked, yet always back returning to those first feelings that were born with me, and leaving busy chase of wealth and learning for idle dreams of things which cannot be. Today I will seek not the shadowy region. Its unsustaining vastness waxes drear, and visions rising legion after legion bring the unreal world too strangely near. I'll walk, but not in old heroic traces, and not in paths of high morality, and not among the half-distinguished faces, the clouded forms of long past history. I'll walk where my own nature would be leading. It vexes me to choose another guide. Where the gray flocks and ferny glens are feeding, where the wild wind blows on the mountainside. What of those lonely mountains worth revealing? More glory and more grief than I can tell. The earth that wakes one human heart to feeling can center both the worlds of heaven and hell.
Barter by Sarah Teasdale. Life has loveliness to sell. All beautiful, splendid things. Blue waves whitened on a cliff. Soaring fire that sways and sings. And children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell. Music like a curve of gold. Scent of pine trees in the rain. Eyes that love you. Arms that hold. And for your spirit's still delight, holy thoughts that star the night. Spend all you have for loveliness. Buy it. Never count the cost. For one white singing hour of peace, count many, a year of strife well lost. And for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be.
First Love by John Clare. I ne'er was struck before that hour with love so sudden and so sweet. Her face it bloomed like a sweet flower and stole my heart away complete. My face turned pale, as deadly pale. My legs refused to walk away. And when she looked, what could I ail? My life, and all seemed, turned to clay. And then my blood rushed to my face and took my eyesight quite away. The trees and bushes round the place seemed midnight at noonday. I could not see a single thing. Words from my eyes did start. They spoke as chords do from a string, and blood burnt round my heart. Are flowers the winter's choice? Is love's bed always snow? She seemed to hear my silent voice, not love's appeals to know. I never saw so sweet a face as that I stood before. My heart has left its dwelling place and can return no more.
The Children's Hour by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Between the dark and the daylight, when the night is beginning to lower, comes a pause in the day's occupations that is known as the Children's Hour. I hear in the chamber above me the patter of little feet, the sound of a door that is opened, and voices, soft and sweet. From my study I see in the lamplight, descending the broad hall stair, grave Alice and laughing Allegra and Edith with golden hair. A whisper and then a silence, yet I know by their merry eyes they are plotting and planning together to take me by surprise. A sudden rush from the stairway, a sudden raid from the hall. By 3 doors left unguarded, they enter my castle wall. They climb up into my turret, or the arms and back of my chair. If I try to escape, they surround me. They seem to be everywhere. They almost devour me with kisses, their arms about me entwine, till I think of the Bishop of Bingen in his mouse tower on the Rhine. Do you think, oh blue-eyed banditti, because you have scaled the wall, such an old mustache as I am, is not a match for you all? I have you fast in my fortress, and will not let you depart, but put you down into the dungeon in the round tower of my heart. And there will I keep you forever, yes, forever and a day, till the walls shall crumble to ruin and molder in dust away.
Thank you all. Before we announce the winner of this year's Poetry Out Loud State Finals, we welcome back on our virtual stage Maine Academy of Modern Music. This is 29 Jews performing the original song, Breathe. Thank you, 29 Jewels. At this time, I would love to recognize our regional champions and thank them for their hard work preparing for this state championship. It's really been an exciting competition, and we have filled this virtual space with great poetry. To announce our winners, I'm going to pass the virtual mic to David Greenham, Interim Executive Director of the Maine Arts Commission. Thank you so much for having me. Stay healthy, stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you, Alan. I'd like to take a moment to thank the judges for this year's state finals, Miku Paul, Eklis Ahmed, and Erica Rubin Irish. I would also like to thank the judges from our regional competitions, Salim, Kristen Lindquist, and Emily Baer. Our accuracy judge for the regional and state finals was Todd McKinley. These judges devoted many hours to planning for and remotely scoring the recitation videos for this year's competition. Thank you, thank you, thank you, judges. And now for our winners. First, congratulations to the 2021 Poetry Out Loud Maine State runner-up, Helen Strout. And a special congratulations to our 2021 Poetry Out Loud Maine State champion, Emily Peruke. Emily will compete in this year's virtual National Poetry Out Loud competition, where a total of $50,000 in cash and prizes and school stipends will be awarded. Congratulations to all of our participants, and especially to our winners, Emily and Helen.
Yay! Thank you, David, and thank you all for participating in this very unique year of Poetry Out Loud. I cannot wait to see you all again next year, hopefully in person, for Poetry Out Loud 2022.